I'm Lauren's father, and she's a pretty awesome kid. We're on the Highway 16 in Canada, and it's just unbelievable vast.
They call it the Highway of Tears. There's all these stories of women missing and being murdered along this stretch of highway.
The internet is the new highway of tears. It connects everybody everywhere.
I knew she was on Facebook laws, but I didn't know about the other online stuff.
You are literally opening your door to these predators.
Okay, now we just have psychopaths that aren't even just traveling along the highway randomly, but they're actually searching for these victims and befriending them first.
And you think you're safe because you're in your own home, but you're not safe.
We're on the far west side of Canada, and we live right smack in the middle of British Columbia. The scenery is unbelievable. We have mountains, we have lakes, we have desert, we have everything. Basically, it's a good place for children to grow up. There's hunting and fishing and swimming and boating, and just about anything you want to do is here. Lauren was 15 years old in 2010. She was just a fun kid.
Lauren was my older sister by 2 years, and she was definitely my biggest support in that. I remember quite frequently just verbal fights breaking out between my parents and my brother, and my sister would always, take me upstairs to my room and just talk to me and make sure that I was doing okay.
Probably one of the best people that I could ever know. Not a mean bone in her body. She was always so happy and just so loving and full of life.
You would never know unless you knew that she had a problem. She had what they call iris coloboma, and it's very rare.
She was born with this condition where she had 75% vision loss in one eye and 50% in the other eye.
I noticed Lauren's computer screen had very large print, but I didn't realize how bad her vision was. I had no idea.
She was never gonna drive a car, but she loved art. She was an amazing artist. I don't know how she saw what she was drawing, but she always drew.
There are some of them when she was quite young. This one is a strawberry. And this one, I think this is a teenager thing, she's drawn the jewelry that she would have liked at the time and whatnot. And a rose. This one I like very much. You wouldn't ever know that her sight wasn't good.
She always wore these centimeter thick glasses, and she got made fun of a lot.
When she was in elementary school, the kids used to pick on her, but she just lived with it.
We did talk about the bullying, it did have an effect on her. Lauren knew I was getting bullied throughout high school. We did kind of bond over that.
The thing about these communities is while they are very small and welcoming, they're welcoming of their kind. They're not very open-minded. This is very small town northern BC. It's kind of a district of communities. There's Vanderhoof, Prince George, Fort St. James, and they're all separated by a stretch of highway.
Lauren was in Vanderhoof, and her style, her personality, it definitely was too big for that place.
Around 12 or 13, she kind of started to adapt a more alternative sort of style, and she would wear the bigger, darker, baggier clothing with the spikes and the belts and the collars and the chokers that were sort of just more gothic, more her. I mean, it wasn't extreme, but in that town at that time, it was definitely not typical.
She had studs in her lips and tattoos. And in fact, Lauren was the first to get our tattoo, our family motto, grip fast on her wrist.
I think that she might have felt out of place. It's lonely in those small communities way up there. Like, there's not a lot of people to be friends with, and the people that you have around you, if you by chance don't fit into their mold, you might as well not exist. So I think when we started to get Facebook and we started to get these online platforms to communicate, it did bring the rest of the population to you, and it really did kind of open up those gates to make real connections that you could appreciate.
In her bedroom, sometimes I would say, "Oh, you're still up," and she would have the room would be totally dark except for her computer.
She was always communicating with friends around the world. I knew that much.
Like, I know she was online all the time, and I'm assuming it was for Facebook, but I really don't know because I was always working.
It's crazy looking at her page. It's funny, her profile picture, she's wearing my shirt in that picture. That's my shirt. I actually remember her posting some of these. A lot of them, actually.
Good reason to wear pajamas in bed. Yeah, I've never seen any of these.
You would never know that she had been hurt. You would never know that she was struggling with her depression. It never stopped her from doing everything she could to make other people feel better.
I knew she struggled with her mental health. I knew she was connected to people that also struggled with their mental health. I knew that was one of the things that, brought her to her friends. Everywhere. Missouri, Kansas, everywhere all over the States. There's people in Europe. There's people around the globe so touched by her without knowing her. It's like a full blog of how much she meant to this community anyway.
I'm not sure what other websites she was on, but I introduced her to Nexopia. Yeah, that was not good.
The first time we really heard about Nexopia was in 2003. And interestingly, it was a very young Canadian programmer who put that together. He actually adopted for his slogan, "Why use Nexopia?" Because your mom is on Facebook. Here was a place where they could actually hook up in privacy.
At the time, I thought it was a great place to be. It's like, I want to be on this website all the time. And it's not. So this is Lauren's Nexopia. She goes by Bob Sheep. And she's got all of her information. It's all completely open. Her location, her age, everything. It's all there.
Nexopia could be risque, and it's a dangerous place to go. Yes, you meet people, but these are strangers. But the teenagers took a chance because they wanted to be free.
I was targeted by grown men on this website. 26, 27. I was 15, 14. And then as we got to talk, it became sexual. And he would make inappropriate comments about my body. He would send me photos that I had no business seeing. He would ask me for photos. Then he would turn around and say, "No pressure, it's okay if you don't want to, if you're not comfortable, that's okay." And then he would try it again. My biggest mistake in life is introducing Lauren to Nexopia. Yeah. I showed her my profile, and if I could go back in time, I never would have done it. I never would have showed her it. It's not a safe space.
I heard something was wrong is when the cops phoned me to find out if Lauren was home. And I said, no, she's staying with her mother.
So he called my mom because she didn't live with him and found out that no, Lauren wasn't home.
And she said that she was supposed to be at a friend's place for coffee, and she apparently didn't show up. I tried calling some of her friends to find out for sure. At 3 o'clock in the morning, phoning her friends, it's not the thing to do, but, that's what was going through my mind. I got to find out for sure,
Locals call it the Highway of Tears. About 50 young women and girls have disappeared along the highway in Western Canada.
At that time, I didn't know too much about the Highway of Tears. It's a long highway. It's all the way from Prince George to Prince Rupert, and we live right next to that.
There's all these stories dating back to the 70s of women, particularly Aboriginal women, going missing and being murdered along this stretch of highway.
The official count fluctuates sometimes between 16 and 18. However, the locals really believe it's more like 40, 50, or 60.
My grandparents bought a farm along the highway when I was young, and it was a thing we couldn't play. If we were visible to the road, we weren't allowed to play by ourselves because somebody was going to stop and abduct us or kill us.
If you've never been in northern BC, you can go a long distance, just bush and trees, no houses, no buses, there's nothing. So their only means of getting around is hitchhiking.
They started putting up placards all over. There's a murderer running loose, all sorts of things you'd see as you were driving. Anything to dissuade these young girls from just randomly hitchhiking. The police did describe that this was probably an isolated case involving a woman who was in a very high-risk lifestyle. She had been an escort, and she was known to police because of her drug activity. About a year later, there were 2 more missing women actually reported on the same day. There was a Cynthia Mass, who was 35, and there was Natasha Montgomery, who was 23.
Natasha Montgomery is my daughter. She had lots of friends. She was right into sport. She liked to figure skate. She had 2 children, Jameson and Brianne. She was a good mom. When she first went missing, of course, I kept asking everybody if they had heard from her. It had been a few days, and I hadn't heard anything, so I drove around Prince trying to find her. Of course, I never did. I just didn't know what to do. I'd go on Google Earth, like, where could she be? I just go crazy. I was very, very worried about the Highway of Tears. She could have definitely been a victim, but just prayed it wasn't.
I think everybody was starting to raise their own concerns. So now we have 3 young women. We have to watch out. There is a serial killer out there.
Something in my gut just screamed like this is all connected. There's a pattern here. Like, there's these young women. The only difference was that Lauren was a child, but I didn't know the whole story.
I didn't know until it hit the radio. I phoned the police right away, and they told me that it was a 90% chance it wasn't Natasha. And then I seen on the news that it was Cynthia. So I looked on her on Facebook. And I noticed she had mutual friends of Natasha. So I reached out to Cynthia's sister.
Why does she want to talk to me? I was really confused.
I didn't even know what to say to you when we actually got on the phone, other than I just knew there was a connection. How I knew, I don't know.
I think they're all connected. That's what you said to me.
Yeah.
You were already on it. You'd already started going, there's something going on here. It's not just my daughter is missing. And honest to God, up until then, I didn't even know about the Highway of Tears.
I don't read the newspaper, and I try not to listen to too much news, and so I didn't know about them. And then the cops phoned me, and things just went sour from there.
I had a friend over. We made a plan to go to her grandparents' house, and as we were leaving, we asked Lauren if she, needed a ride somewhere or wanted to hang out with us. And she said she was good. She had a ride to a party. She was gonna go there. And, we left it at, I love you, I'll see you later.
Later on that night, on November 27th, it was probably around 9:45 in the evening. A police officer who was going on the highway just happened to see something out of the corner of his eye which didn't look right, and that was someone barreling down in a black pickup truck.
He followed him, and he had just a gut feeling that something was wrong.
When he pulled him over, instead of rolling down the window or zipping it down the way some people will do, he chose to open it just a crack to produce his driver's license. And the person on the driver's license was Cody Lejabakov, the 20-year-old male living in Prince George. The officer, he had a bit of light there with his flashlight, so he was able to see that there was just the tiniest smear of blood on the driver's face.
Then they found a pipe wrench and a knife. He was wearing shorts, and there's blood splatters all over the place. And so they asked him what was going on, and he said, him and his friend had winged a deer and beat it to death, and his friend was going to dispose of the deer.
I don't know if I'm getting the story right or not, but just tell me what went on tonight. We hunt deer. If we run this blood, if we do a forensic match on it, we're going to find out it's deer blood, right? I guess so, yeah. You guess so. It obviously is.
I believe at that point he thought he perhaps had a poacher on his hands, and he decided to call in the conservation officer.
They could have taken Cody in to the station and had charged him with poaching there, but that cop had a really bad feeling.
This part in the road here, where you see this gravel road coming off the highway, that's where Conservation Officer Cameron Hill decided that he thought there was something worth investigating there. Something just wasn't right. And so he made the decision to see exactly what was there. Mr. Hill then started to see that the tracks were leading downward towards the creek. So he continued down this path. The snow would have been deep. It would have been really hard to see. Apparently he was having trouble with his flashlight. He was really concerned he was going to run out of light before he had found this deer, because that's what he's looking for. And so he continues down this path, and as luck would have it, The torch lasted just long enough for him to see that there was a large object lying there on the ground. And he realizes almost immediately that it's not a deer, that it is a human being. He sees that this victim's pants are down around her ankles, and there's a lot of blood everywhere. He backed away and then proceeds to walk back to where he knows Constable Keller is waiting by Cody Ledgepcoff's vehicle. In fact, he was searching it. In further looking around the vehicle, the officer also saw a back sack, and it was sort of in the shape of a monkey.
This backpack was in his passenger seat. She always had it with her. Got her hospital ID card.
This was a very big breakthrough for the police because they were able to determine that the body being found belonged to Lauren Toes, which we know, of course, is the family name for Lauren Leslie.
That was when they called my dad. Something is seriously wrong, and that was when he went out to the scene.
When I got up to where the cops were, there was a bunch of cops and the game warden and everybody standing there, and I just told them who I was and I wanted to know what was going on, and I don't want any. And so they said all they could tell me was that they were investigating a homicide.
My son Doug phoned me early in the morning to tell me. And that was horrendous news.
Walking to school on the Monday, completely exhausted and lost and out of my mind, was sort of the moment that it hit me that Lauren was dead. And I don't know, I guess it took me months to even fully accept it, but it took me days to even realize. And just feeling like I was alone.
Well, it's something you can't explain, that feeling. It's just a dread, like I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
There's a period of time that I don't know what happened, and my parents would come home and they would open my door and I would be sleeping, but they were scared that I would be dead. I just felt like my world was broken.
The time now is 0015 hours on the 28th of November 2010. I'm arresting you for the murder of Lauren Dawn Toes.
Of course, he was advised of his rights and told he could phone a lawyer if he wished. And he said, I just want to phone my dad.
I want to call my dad. You have the right to call a lawyer right now. How old are you? You're an adult? I want to call my dad. You're an adult? So you have a right to call a lawyer right now. Do you want to call a lawyer? I want to call my dad.
And he said, he was supposed to be engaged and he's supposed to be, home with his fiance. And, why is he hanging out with a 15-year-old girl in the middle of the night?
How about you? You got, who do you hang out with?
My girlfriend.
Yeah, it's kind of important to you, then?
Yeah. This is the girl I'm going to marry.
What's the plan? What are you thinking?
Move in together. We've already talked about this. Kids, marriage, start a family. Live happily ever after.
Well, if you looked at him and didn't know, you wouldn't know. His grandfather was raised in the little town where I was raised, and they owned a garage and a taxi and later a sawmill, and they were part of our community.
He was a good kid, and he, was very well liked by a lot of people, had a lot of friends, and very popular.
He insisted he didn't do this, that he didn't know anything about this. He said, I saw this woman lying there, It was horrible. I just wanted to leave. But I had nothing to do with that. I just came across it.
I am investigating a murder, but I did not murder anybody. I don't know why I'm in here. I told you, you're under arrest for murder. I did not murder anybody.
But then the story came out that they had met online and got together. It was disgusting, and it made me feel sick, and it made me angry.
One of the really big breakthroughs in this case was when the officers were able to go through Cody Lejabakov's cell phone. There they were able to retrieve all these texts from Lauren Leslie so that they basically retraced the steps, how these individuals met, how they came to be together that night on November 27th, what the plan was. And the plan was that they would meet that evening.
Lejabakov was an avid user of social media and technology. He frequently used the online name of One Country Boy.
She had to meet him somehow, and I guess it was online. It could have been Facebook, it could have been Nexopia.
It was an awful feeling, knowing that that's how they met. I'm the one that introduced her to it. That's how they started talking. He reached out to her first and initiated that conversation. Looking all normal, like your typical young adult, just all of his pictures are with other people and not a care in the world. This is disgusting, like, just the way he's speaking to her, like she's an object, not even a person. Cody's very pushy right from the start. Like, he's 20, she was 15. Like, that's not okay. Gross.
The texts were very revealing, I feel, to show he had in fact met up with Lauren at her school. He had in fact taken her for a drive. And so now he conceded, yes, we did go out, and yes, we had consensual sex. And after that, I don't know what happened. She just went berserk, basically.
He was saying she went crazy and started beating herself over the head with a wrench. And it was a mercy killing.
Yeah, she was hitting herself. And I was more stunned and in awe. And at the end of it, I was just like, what the f*** is going on here?
That was hard to hear that. Like, I know Lauren, like, she would never, obviously she would never do that.
You know, she probably confided in him some degree of her mental struggles. It's an easy thing to put together that, you know, this young teen that struggles with depression and anxiety, she probably killed herself.
When the police were going through Cody Lejabakov's laptop, they came across lots of conversations that he had had, not just with Lauren Leslie. And the police had to basically plow through about 27,000 pages of text in order to really discover this side of Cody Lejabakov, that he sought so desperately to hide that.
The crime scenes were examined. The vehicle he was driving during the aftermath of 15-year-old Lauren Leslie's murder was also painstakingly forensically examined over the course of several weeks.
There were spots lots of it that were not related to Lauren Leslie. It was sort of like those mystery movies. What? It's not all Lauren Leslie's blood? Well, then whose?
Definitely when it came out in the news, it was a huge red flag for me, you know, because he had said he'd been in the Prince George area. So I started checking, like, my daughter's Facebook to see if there was any connection.
I never connected them because Lauren was a young teenage schoolgirl, and she was also Caucasian and obviously outside of the age group.
Yeah. You
were so sure, just the energy from your words that you were, it just gave me the feeling of, no, this is definitely it. And as things began to unravel, every single one of your connections were the truth. I was scared to listen to you after, Rob, because I'm like, what else does she know?
I understand why the police would have been hesitant to make that connection because they were incredibly different.
Lauren was also younger, and she wasn't involved in drugs.
What had happened was until, he was investigated for Lauren's murder, he wasn't on any police radars. Like, they had no reason to question him. Once they did have a reason, they went into his apartment and they started investigating.
Mr. Lejabakov had lived in an apartment where people would party and they would do drugs. So when the police first went there, it became just a bountiful amount of evidence that they could later use.
It was a combination of many factors that has brought us to the point where additional 3 homicide charges can be laid.
One of the officers did say it was a treasure trove because there was so much blood, sadly.
They found Jill's DNA on the couch. The picaroon with Cindy's DNA on it. Natasha's DNA spread out across his apartment. There was some in the bedroom. There was a pool of blood with his footprint in it.
Yeah, it was like crazy. Like, how sick. He is so sick he shouldn't be allowed to breathe. He beat them with blunt force, with tools.
Splatters all over the wall, in the kitchen cupboard, in the bathroom, on the mat, along the tub is all Natasha's DNA. It was just overwhelming.
Has Natasha Montgomery been found?
No, she has not, and our efforts will continue to make all attempts to locate her.
I was devastated. I remember after they left, I remember I just kind of fell to the floor. I fell against the wall and slid down to the floor and just bawled and bawled. It was the hardest thing is to lose a child. I know she was 23, but she was still a child. She's barely an adult.
We hope that the arrest and the subsequent charges laid against Mr. Lejabakov will start to bring closure to these tragic events.
That was when we heard about, okay, no, he's linked to these other murders. It's not just a one-time thing. And then that's where it started to not make sense again, because why did it change?
He found vulnerable women on the street and he played on it. And then he went and found vulnerable people online and he found a whole new approach to it.
I just think they had the taste for killing, and it wouldn't matter after that who it was or how old they were or anything.
It's going to be a long road. You don't know what to expect. And it just goes on, and you think one day it's going to be done when they catch him. And then it just is the beginning.
What else is there in his bag of tricks? Well, in fact, he did have something up his sleeve.
In Prince George today, the start of a trial for the murders of 3 women and a teenage girl.
I watched almost every day of the trial.
I sat in the same place and I watched his bald head. If I could have cut his head off right there, I would have.
Looking at him, he was totally different. Even his pictures in the newspaper, you would not know that this person was him.
It was like watching a video of somebody bored out of his mind, monotonously talking about something that's breaking your heart. But he never mentioned feeling bad or any sense of empathy or compassion or anything.
And of course, I looked in his face for some kind of acknowledgement or something, but there was nothing.
I found him very arrogant. That's the only word I can think of.
When it was announced that Mr. Lejbakov was going to be taking the stand, I think there was a sort of total disbelief. What else could he say? But the most fantastic story of all, of course, was the introduction of Mr. X, Y, and Z. He maintains, oh yes, I was there, but my only part in it was to hand the murder weapons to these individuals. It was a coke dealer and a couple of his acquaintances.
We know there's no X, Y, and Z. There's no other DNA to support that.
He didn't name them because to do so would have been a rat in prison.
He's caught. You're caught. There's so much evidence. It's overwhelming. Just admit what you did.
It was devastating, really, because I knew then I wasn't going to find out anything about my daughter, and he, he's not admitting to anything. It's just a lie.
There was so much going on. At first, he didn't admit anything. And then he said, well, okay, well, I might have hit her once, maybe twice. I might have hit her twice.
And did she move after that? And when Cody Lejbakov said no, then there you have it, you see. He struck the final blow that killed her.
As far as I was concerned, the trial was over.
It's that gotcha moment. We gotcha now. And that's the moment I remember.
A jury has found Cody Lejbakov guilty of murdering 3 women and a teenage girl.
He was sentenced to life in prison, no chance of parole for 25 years.
He was convicted of 4 first-degree murders. They were all to be served concurrently, so he only got 1. And that made me mad.
What stuck with me more was what the judge said after his closing arguments. For the record, this is not a man, it is a monster, and it should never walk among men again.
There will always be questions. Are there more? Because, of course, he never did say where Natasha Montgomery's body was, so does he have other secrets that we don't know about?
I still hope to find her. I need to find her. It's a huge part of the healing process. Her kids need that place to go. So we have a place, but she's not there.
Well, we got so many messages on Facebook after her death. A lot of her friends, from all over the world, that she had helped. I knew Lauren, but to know her better, you hear things about her and from other people that I may not have known. It just makes a big difference.
Her death is not in vain. Who knows how many people that she saved. She stopped him from killing so many more women, and he would have kept going. In a perfect world, don't be on these websites. You have no business being on these websites. Your safety is not worth it. Having these likes and these photos, it's not worth it. You don't need it. The attention that you're getting is from the wrong people.
For 7 years, I posted on Facebook every day. just how I felt the day, and talked to her like she was there. And then one page led to another, to another, to another. 1,500 times, yeah. Yeah.
When my dad would write those Facebook posts, it drove me crazy. I hated it. But in my own way, I used to call her phone and I'd wait for the voicemail, and I used to leave her voicemails.
Lauren, a lot of us are feeling you very strong. Thank you for that. Maybe someday people will be more aware of their surroundings and the people around them. All I can do is try and make it safer. Love and miss you. Sweetie, love, Dad. Grip fast. You know, and I don't know what people believe, but I mean, I believe that she's still there. She's all right.